Welcome back to Speak Your Truth, a poetry podcast. Now, once again, I am genuinely grateful that you chose to spend this time here with me. Over the last few episodes, we've walked through some heavy stuff together. We named depression instead of flinching from it. We listened to anxiety without letting it run the room. We honored the quiet, almost invisible strength it takes to keep showing up on ordinary days. Today, we're going to turn inward, not to analyze, not to fix, but to soften. Today is about self-compassion. For many of us, kindness comes easily when it's directed outward. Sadly, I am one of those people. My wife is also one of those people. We know how to encourage a friend. We know how to hold space for someone else's pain. But when it comes to ourselves, the language completely changes. The voice tightens, the patience thins, grace becomes conditional. Loving yourself can feel awkward, unnatural, even undeserved. And yet, poetry asks us to try anyway. It asks us to slow down long enough to notice the way we speak to ourselves when no one else is listening. To hear the tone beneath the thoughts. To recognize the places where we've been surviving instead of nurturing. This episode is an invitation. Not to force self-love, not to perform confidence, but to write a love letter that tells the truth. A letter that says, I see you. I know what you've carried. I know what you've endured. And I'm still here with you. Let this be a moment where you stop demanding more from yourself and instead offer yourself what you've always given so freely to others. Take a breath. Settle in. And let's begin writing love letters to ourselves. Many of us are quick to encourage friends or family. We know exactly what to say when someone else is hurting. We remind them of their worth. We make room for their mistakes. And we tell them they're human. But when it comes to our own missteps, our tone changes. The grace disappears. And we become our harshest critics. The voice inside rarely shouts. It whispers. Not enough. Not worthy. Not lovable. And because it sounds familiar, because it's been with us for so long, we start to believe it's telling the truth. That voice often learns its language early, from expectations we couldn't meet, from love that felt conditional, from moments where survival mattered more than softness. So we push ourselves harder, We minimize our pain. We tell ourselves others have it worse. We confuse criticism with discipline, and we call that strength. But constant self-judgment doesn't make us better. It makes us smaller, quieter, more careful with our own hearts. This is where poetry steps in. Not as a solution, not as a cure, but as a counter voice. Poetry doesn't erase the inner critic. It doesn't pretend the wounds aren't there. What it does create is a space where another voice is finally allowed to speak. A voice that says, I see why you're this way. I understand how you learned to survive. You don't have to be perfect to be worthy of care. Through poetry, we practice speaking to ourselves with tenderness without demanding that we earn it first. We write not to fix who we are, but to sit beside ourselves honestly. This is where self-compassion begins. Not with praise, not with affirmation, but with listening. Think of poetry as a way of writing to yourself across time. A message sent without urgency. From who you are now to who you used to be. From this moment to the person you are still becoming. A poem can travel where conversation can't. It reaches the child you once were, who did the best they could with what they had. It reaches the version of you who learned to be strong before they learned to be soft. Sometimes that younger self is still listening, still waiting to be spoken to gently, still hoping someone will say, you didn't fail, you adapted. Poetry gives us a language for that kind of honesty. Not dramatic, not polished, just true. In a few carefully chosen words, a poem can hold forgiveness. It can hold gratitude. It can hold grief without needing to explain itself. This is what makes poetry different. It doesn't demand closure. It doesn't rush healing. It allows complexity to sit on the page without being solved. A poem becomes a letter without an envelope. No address, no stamp. Just words that know where to find you when you need them. You can return to it on days when the world feels cold, when kindness feels distant, or when you forget how far you've come. And each time you read it, you're reminded of something important. You spoke to yourself once with care. You left evidence of compassion behind, and it's still waiting for you. This isn't about writing beautifully. It's about writing honestly, letting your words say, I am here, I am listening, I am not abandoning you. That is what a love letter is. And poetry has been writing them to us all along. Before we move forward, I want to offer you a poem. It's not a poem about fixing yourself. It's not about becoming someone new. It's a letter written across time to the versions of you that kept going, to the ones that got tired, to the ones that are still learning how to be gentle. As you listen, you don't need to agree with every line. Just notice what resonates. Notice where your body softens. Notice what wants to be heard. This is Dear Me with kindness. Dear me, the one who carries every yesterday like stones learned by name. The one who keeps reaching for tomorrow's light even when your hands are tired. I see the weight you hold. Not just the obvious grief, but the quiet responsibilities no one ever thanked you for. I see the courage in the small steps, the mornings you get up and away, the nights you stayed soft when it would have been easier to harden. You're not the sum of your mistakes. You're the space that survives them. You're the pause between regret and becoming. Breathe. You were learning. You were adapting. You were doing the best you could with the language you had at the time. Forgive the stumbles. They taught you where the ground was uneven. Thank the scars. They're proof you healed instead of disappearing. There were moments you spoke harshly to yourself, moments you believed silence meant failure, moments you confused endurance with worth. I forgive you for that too. You don't owe perfection to anyone. You don't have to earn rest. You don't need permission to be gentle with yourself now. Remember this. You are always more than the pain that shaped you, more than the doubts that followed you home, more than the fear that told you to shrink. You're becoming someone who knows how to stay, who knows how to love, the you who finally understands that being enough was never something you had to become. Now it's your turn. Not to perform, not to impress, just to write. Consider writing a love letter to yourself. It doesn't need to be polished, it doesn't need to be long. 3 lines is enough. 3 pages is allowed. This letter can travel across time. You might write to the child you once were, the one who needed reassurance before they had the words to ask for it. You might write to the person you are today, the one doing the work quietly, the one still showing up even when no one is watching. Or you might write to the version of you still waiting somewhere in the future, the one who has learned a few things you're still practicing now. If it helps, start simple. Let the words arrive without editing them. You can start with, "Dear me, today I'm proud of you because," or "Dear me, I forgive you for," or even "Dear future me, I hope you remember." There's no right way to finish these sentences. Let honesty matter more than elegance. Let kindness matter more than clarity. If your words feel awkward, that's okay. If they feel emotional, that's fine too. This is not about getting it right. It's about staying present. As you write, notice what softens. Notice what surprises you. Notice if a part of you feels relieved to finally be spoken to with care. Poetry turns these simple sentences into a conversation with your own soul. A place where judgment steps aside and listening starts to take place. Take your time here. Absolutely no rush. You're allowed to move at the pace that feels safest for you. You don't have to share what you wrote with anyone. There's no obligation here. Some words are meant to stay close. But sometimes, reading your letter aloud, even if it's just to yourself, can change the way it lands. When a thought leaves the page and enters the air, it becomes more real. Your body hears it. Your nervous system registers the care. You might notice resistance at first, a tightening, a feeling of embarrassment or disbelief. And that's okay. That doesn't mean the words aren't true. If you choose to share your poem with someone else, let it be someone safe, someone who can listen without fixing, someone who understands that being witnessed is sometimes enough. What often surprises us is what happens on the other side of sharing. Your honesty gives someone else permission. Your tenderness becomes a mirror. And suddenly, they're talking to themselves more kindly. This is how poetry moves. Not loudly, not all at once, but person to person, heart to heart. And even if your words are never shared, they still matter. They were received by the one who needed them most. You. Let this be enough. You showed up. You listened. You spoke to yourself with care. That is not small. That is how kindness learns to live in the body. All right. Thank you for spending this time with me today on Speak Your Truth Poetry Podcast. Thank you, as always, for choosing to slow down. Thank you for listening inward instead of reaching outward for noise. As you move back into your day, speak gently to yourself, not just in moments of success, but especially in moments of doubt. Remember that self-compassion is not indulgence. It isn't weakness. It isn't letting yourself off the hook. It's the ground beneath your feet when everything else feels uncertain. Self-compassion is the soil where every other kind of love grows. Love for others, love for the work you're doing, love for the life you're still becoming. You don't have to be healed to be worthy of kindness. You don't have to be finished to be deserving of care. You are allowed to grow and be gentle at the same time. Take what you wrote today and keep it somewhere close. Return to it when the world feels sharp. Let it remind you how to speak to yourself when it matters most. And as always, until next time, stay grounded, stay grateful, and always, always speak your truth.
Letter to who I was. I am writing to you from the far side of your choices, from the quiet after the damage, from the place you did not think you deserved to reach. I forgive you for the hurt you caused, even when you knew better, even when you chose yourself, even when you left people bleeding and called it survival. I forgive you for the lies you told, not just to them, but the ones you repeated in your own head until they sounded like truth, until you believed you had no other way. I forgive you for every promise you broke, the sacred ones, the casual ones, the ones you made while hoping no one would ever ask you to keep them. You were scared, not innocent, not blameless, just scared and pretending strength was the same as control. You did not ruin everything, you cracked it. You fractured trust. You left echoes where love used to sit. That part is real. I will not lie to you now. But I see why you are reckless. I see how you confuse urgency with honesty. I see how you chase relief instead of repair. I am not here to absolve you without accountability. I am here because you learned, because you stopped running, because you finally looked at the wreckage and stayed. You grew teeth for truth. You learned the cost of your own silence. You learned that saying sorry means changing, not just aching. So hear this clearly. I forgive you not because it did not matter, but because carrying it forever would turn me into you all over again. Rest now. Your job was survival. Mine is repair. I will carry what you could not, and I will do it honestly.